everyone, this is my Asssessment2A. So question 1. In the year 2012, the financial situation of Hansstad Bremen appears quite poor if we're looking at the information available on the income statement. By utilising a cost coverage ratio, we can see that if we divide the total revenue without the extra €300 million of the grant, so €3,588 million, by the total costs of €4,591 million in 2012, we get a ratio of 0.78, rounded up. According to Van Helden and Hodge, this clearly indicates a significant inability to cover costs. While this may be acceptable over the shorter term, it is evident that interest costs are increasing substantially while the city is unable to pay off the larger debt, with interest costs increasing over time, which suggests that the debt is also increasing. In 2012, the costs of a loan make up 15% of total costs. However, if we assume all costs remain the same, the cost of the loan will make up 22% of the costs. Not having access to a balance sheet limits our understanding about liquidity, that is, the ability for the city to pay for its short-term debts by means of current assets. Also limits our ability to understand solvency, the extent to which an organisation is able to pay off its liabilities in the long run. However, although a balance sheet would provide more evidence about this, it seems that it would be unlikely there would be sufficient equity and assets to cover a €20 billion debt given the current revenue without catastrophic social consequences. So question 2, in completing a table and for my statement to the federal government, I have focused on maintaining a steady growth in revenue with more focus on general taxation revenue. Specific operations revenue is an exchange cost and is borne more directly by the service user of that operation, and while it does have scope for increase, if those charges are increased aggressively in this area, there is a risk that people will become unwilling or unable to pay and stop using some of these services, and this may in fact reduce revenue. General taxation activities are more palatable to increase from a social point of view, as they are a non-exchange transaction and could be therefore easier to justify from a political point of view, as the debt reduction activity is a non-exchange transaction in itself. It's not going towards a specific service user but to benefit the city and the country overall. However, this would need to be carefully presented and justified to ensure the public understand the value over the longer term. The grant is very important for reducing the real and perceived social impact of the deficit reduction activities, such as maintaining social benefits and ensuring it appears that the burden of deficit reduction does not fall solely on the city's residents, but also on the federal government. It also appears to reduce the impact on operational and staff costs, helps to reduce those impacts rather, although some cost savings are attempted in my budget, assuming that there could be some efficiency improvements that could be made with a cost-benefit analysis and use of other performance measures as suggested by Bandy. Severe reductions in cost could be politically unpopular, as it could have an impact on the city's ability to carry out services previously achieved, and impact on overall well-being, ability of people to contribute to taxes and fees, and put greater burden on social benefit costs in the longer term. By making these changes and assuming the deficit was €1,003 million without the grant, we've been able to reduce the deficit quite significantly over 5 years. In question 3, the income statement is quite broad in detail and does not have clear specific costs identified. It is not clear what the social outcomes or outputs would have been as a result of these activities, which is an important part of assessing performance in the public sector. However, it would seem that specific investment income to investment cost ratio is only 0.17, which appears very low and possibly suggestive of poor performance in this area. However, it appears that investment costs are decreasing over the 5 years, and this is suggestive over longer term improvements. With question 4, if I worked for the federal government, I would advise that the grant is very important in reducing the political and social impacts of deficit reduction activities, including such risks as greater poverty, subsequent economic slowing, and reducing the chance that the government will lose power. It will facilitate greater reductions over the shorter period of time, which will subsequently help reduce the overall debt a lot faster and reduce interest costs more rapidly. This could improve solvency and liquidity ratios. Without this reduction, the risk is the bank will not provide any more loans, and the costs of furnishing the loans will increase to the point where the city is unable to afford anything but the loan costs, which would be catastrophic for social welfare. Thanks.